Hello ladies and gentlemen, in this video, we are going to discuss the issues associated with Article 370 of Indian Constitution. But before that, let's understand the brief history of Kashmir. Independence Act of 1947 divided British India. The princely states were given the option of remaining independent or to join India or to join Pakistan. Now, the Maharaja of Jammu and Kashmir initially wanted to stay independent. However, when Afridi tribesmen and Pakistan army invaded the state of Jammu and Kashmir, the Maharaja requested India's help and India agreed to help. That means he signed the Instrument of Accession on 26th of October in 1947. So the story so far is Britishers left. Initially Kashmir wanted to stay independent, but Pakistan attacked on Kashmir and Maharaja of Kashmir requested for India's help and India agreed to help only after he acceded to India. India agreed to help and Maharaja signed Instrument of Accession. Now this Instrument of Accession gave the Indian Parliament power to legislate for Jammu and Kashmir on defense, external affairs and communications. Now in 1949, on 17th of October, Article 370 was included in Indian Constitution by the Constituent Assembly. Now what exactly is Article 370? Article 370 is an enabling provision. It explains that what parts of Indian Constitution will be applicable and what parts of Indian Constitution will have jurisdiction over Jammu and Kashmir. Now according to Article 370, Jammu and Kashmir had its own constitution and all the laws passed by the parliament were not applicable to Jammu and Kashmir without the concurrence of state government of Jammu and Kashmir. So therefore, Article 370 provided special status to Jammu and Kashmir. The special status of Jammu and Kashmir meant that only two articles of Indian Constitution were applicable, Article 1 and Article 370. Only these two articles were applicable. Later, through presidential order in 1954, the President extended numerous articles of Indian Constitution to the state of Jammu Kashmir. Apart from that, the jurisdiction of Supreme Court, Election Commission and UPSC was extended to Jammu and Kashmir. This presidential order also added Article 35A. Now what exactly is Article 35A? Article 35A was introduced through presidential order in 1954 and the Article 35A of Constitution empowers Jammu and Kashmir legislature to define permanent residents of Jammu and Kashmir. This provision allows Jammu and Kashmir State Assembly to define who are permanent residents. It also gave powers to determine the recipients of state grants, the right to purchase land and property in Jammu and Kashmir, as well as right to settle permanently in the region. That means it provided special rights to the residents of Jammu and Kashmir. Now what are the issues associated with this Article 35A? Actually in 2014, an NGO called We the Citizens challenged Article 35A in Supreme Court on the grounds that it was not added to the Constitution through Constitutional Amendment Act under Article 368. It was added through a presidential order. Therefore, the constitutional procedure was not followed. Another ground on which Article 35A is criticized is that it is discriminatory in nature. So this was the history of Jammu and Kashmir and Article 370 as well as Article 35A. Now coming back to present, what was done on 5th of August, the Union Home Minister Mr. Amit Shah introduced two statutory resolutions. The first one was to recommend that the President issue a notification rendering Article 370 inoperative, that means making it ineffective. Subsequently, the President issued a presidential order exercising his powers under Clause 1 of Article 370. So this presidential order was issued to make all the provisions of Indian Constitution effectively applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. Previously, only certain provisions of Indian Constitution were applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. For example, right to education was not applicable, fundamental duties were not applicable. So first part was this presidential notification. Mr. Amit Shah did one more thing. He introduced Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Bill. Now this bill was passed in Rajya Sabha as well as in Lok Sabha. This Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Bill contains the provision for the bifurcation of Jammu and Kashmir into two separate union territories, the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir as well as the Union Territory of Ladakh. The Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir will have a legislature like Delhi and Puducherry, while the Union Territory of Ladakh will not have any legislative assembly. So it will be like Chandigarh. Since the bill has now been passed by both houses, once the president signs the bill and the government issues a notification, the Jammu and Kashmir will no longer be a state. Now one thing we need to understand is that how Article 370 and reorganization of Jammu and Kashmir are interconnected. Since the Article 370 provided special status to Jammu and Kashmir, therefore Article 3 of Indian Constitution was not applicable previously. Article 3 of Indian Constitution provides for the creation of new state by the Parliament. Through the presidential order, the provisions of Article 370 has been made ineffective. Now the Article 3 of Indian Constitution will be applicable, and using this Article 3 of Indian Constitution, the state of Jammu and Kashmir was bifurcated. So this is how Article 370 and Article 3 of Indian Constitution are connected. That's why this was not done before. Now one important thing is that we need to understand what is the present status of Article 370. Has it been scrapped? Technically, it has not been scrapped. Yes, it is still there and it is there in the Constitution. However, now it has been made ineffective. That means it is not operative. It should be clear that 370 is still there, and the deletion of Article 370 would require a constitutional amendment through Article 368. That means in order to scrap Article 370, a constitutional amendment will be required. Now let's understand what has changed for Jammu and Kashmir. Through presidential order, the provisions of Article 370 has been made ineffective. Subsequently, Article 35A will also cease to have any effect. Previously, because of the provisions of Article 35A, Jammu and Kashmir residents had the dual citizenship. That means they had the citizenship of Kashmir as well as the citizenship of India. But now, Article 35A has been rendered ineffective. Therefore, there will be single citizenship. Previously, the tenure of State Legislative Assembly was of 6 years. Now, the tenure of Assembly of Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir will be of 5 years. In addition to that, previously, the center's authority was limited to external affairs, defense, finance and communication. Now, Centre will have the responsibility for administration as well as for local regulations. And now because Article 35A is not effective, therefore anyone can buy property in Kashmir. Previously, because of this Article 35A, non-residents could not buy immovable property in Kashmir and they were not allowed to settle permanently in the state. Now anyone can settle in the Kashmir. In addition to that, previously, because of Article 35A, Kashmiri women married to a non-Kashmiri, that means married to an outsider, could not inherit her property. But now, again, since Article 35A is not applicable, so Kashmiri women married to non-Kashmiri can inherit property. In addition to that, previously, various laws were not applicable. For example, right to education was not applicable. Now, it will be applicable, like any other state or union territory. Now, what is the future of Kashmir? The Union Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, has clearly said that once peace returns to the Kashmir and the situation improves, the government will restore the statehood to the Jammu and Kashmir. So this was all. I hope it clarified all your doubts. If you still have any doubt, feel free to write in comment box. Thank you, and that's all for the day.